What if God himself sent two angels into the darkest city on earth where evil ruled the night and judgment was already falling like fire from heaven? In a land where sin had no shame and mercy was running out, one man was given a final chance to escape before everything burned. This is not just a story, it's a warning, a mystery, and a rescue mission straight from the throne of God. You're about to witness one of the most powerful and shocking moments in all of Scripture. So before we dive in, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share this with someone you love because no one should miss these powerful Bible stories. There was once a land so rich, so green, so full of life that it looked like the Garden of Eden itself. Rivers flowed through the fields, trees danced in the wind, and the mountains stood watch from afar. In that beautiful land stood two great cities, Sodom and Gomorrah. From the outside, they looked like a dream. But inside, something dark had taken root. Sodom and Gomorrah had forgotten God. They forgot the one who made the rivers. They ignored the one who painted the skies. They turned their backs on the God who gave them life. They chose their own way, their own desires, their own rules. And slowly, the cities began to rot from the inside out. The people became proud. Not the kind of pride that celebrates good things, but the kind that says, "We don't need God. We are God's." Their hearts grew hard. They looked down on others and lifted themselves high. They had everything, but instead of using those gifts for good, they wasted them. They became lazy, idle, drifting through their days with no purpose except chasing sinful pleasure. They filled the streets with wild laughter, but not the laughter of joy. It was the cruel laughter of people who no longer cared. They were cruel to the poor. If a hungry man begged at the gate, they turned their heads. If a widow wept, they walked away. If a stranger came to town, they mocked him. Kindness was gone. Mercy was gone. Justice was gone. And their sins grew bolder. What was once whispered in darkness was now shouted in the streets. Shame was called freedom. Evil was called good. Men lusted after men and paraded it like a crown. Their desires burned without restraint, and no one dared to say, "Stop." In Sodom, sin wasn't hidden, it was celebrated. But heaven was not silent. Far away, in the hills of Canaan, lived a man named Abraham, a friend of God. A man who walked in truth, who listened when God spoke. One evening, Abraham stood at the entrance of his tent when he saw three men coming toward him. He didn't know yet, but these were no ordinary travelers. Two of them were angels, and the third was the Lord himself. Abraham bowed low to the ground. "Please stay," he said. "Let me bring water for your feet. Rest under this tree while I prepare food." He hurried into his tent, told Sarah to bake fresh bread, and served his guests meat, curds, and milk. As they ate, the Lord spoke of many things, of promises, of Sarah bearing a son, of a covenant yet to be fulfilled. But then, the conversation turned. The Lord stood and looked toward Sodom. His face was serious now. "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is very great," he said. "Their sin is very heavy. I will go down and see if it is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know." The two angels turned and began walking toward Sodom. But Abraham stayed before the Lord, and his heart broke. He knew who lived in that city, his nephew, Lot, and Lot's family. He knew what kind of place Sodom had become. He knew what God's justice meant. "Will you really sweep away the righteous with the wicked?" Abraham asked. "What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you not spare it for their sake?" The Lord answered, "If I find 50 righteous people in Sodom, I will spare the whole city." Abraham stepped closer. He spoke with trembling voice. "What if the number is 5 less than 50? Will you destroy it for 45? God replied, "I will not destroy it if I find 45. Abraham kept going. "What about 40? 30? 20? Each time, the Lord answered with mercy, "I will not destroy it." Finally, Abraham whispered, "What if there are only 10?" And God, full of patience, said, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." Then the Lord left, and Abraham returned to his tent. But in the distance, the two angels were already walking towards Sodom. The sun was setting. The streets were coming alive with noise and music. And behind closed doors, the darkness was rising. What would they find when they entered that city? Would there be even 10 righteous souls? Or had Sodom sealed its fate? Judgment was coming, and no one knew how close the fire truly was. The sun dipped low, casting a red glow across the city of Sodom. The gates of the city creaked as they closed for the night. The streets were buzzing. Laughter echoed from dark corners, wine spilled in the alleys, and shadows moved behind glowing windows. And through the gate, just as the last light faded, two travelers entered the city. They looked like ordinary men. Dust on their feet, robes flowing, faces calm. But they were not ordinary. They were angels sent from heaven with fire behind their mission. They had come to see the city's wickedness with their own eyes. They had come with a silent clock ticking behind them. Judgment was near. At the gate, watching the people pass, sat a man named Lot. He was not like the others. Though he lived in Sodom, his heart still feared God. Every day, he saw the wickedness around him and his soul was troubled. When Lot saw the two men, something stirred inside him. He knew these were no ordinary travelers. He ran to meet them, bowed with his face to the ground, and said, "Please, my lords, turn aside to your servant's house. Wash your feet, spend the night, and in the morning you may continue on your way." The angels answered gently, "No, we will spend the night in the square." Lot's eyes widened. "No," he urged, "please. You must not stay in the square. Come with me. It's not safe." He knew what happened in the darkness of Sodom's streets. The things people did when they thought no one was watching. Lot begged them until they agreed. That night, in Lot's house, he prepared a meal unleavened bread, quickly baked. The angels sat at the table, silent but watching. They saw everything. Every sound outside, every step on the stone paths, every soul passing under the weight of coming judgment. But they wouldn't have to wait long. Before they had even laid down to rest, the men of the city surrounded the house. Young and old, from every corner of Sodom, they came shouting, laughing, sneering. Their faces were wild, their eyes dark with desire. They pounded on the door. "Where are the men who came to you tonight?" they shouted. "Bring them out to us so we can know them." But they didn't mean no with kindness. They meant violence. They meant shame. They meant to use the angels like animals. Lot stood up, heart pounding, and went outside to shut the door behind him. "Please, my brothers," he said, trembling, "do not do this wicked thing." But the crowd was deaf to reason. Lot was desperate. In his fear and confusion, he said something that shocks us even now. "Look, I have 2 daughters who have never known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, they are under the protection of my roof." It was a terrible offer, a sign of how broken even Lot's judgment had become in this corrupt city. But the crowd only grew more violent. "Get out of our way," they screamed. "This man came here as a stranger, and now he thinks he's our judge? We'll treat you worse than them." They surged forward to break down the door. But then the angels moved. The door flew open. 2 hands shot out and pulled Lot inside. In a flash, the angels slammed the door shut. A blinding light burst from their hands, striking the men outside. The crowd gasped. Their eyes burned. They stumbled in every direction, clawing at the door, but they couldn't find it. The angels had struck them with blindness. Panic spread like fire. The once proud men of Sodom now blind, helpless, lost in the dark, staggered into the streets, groaning. Inside the house, everything changed. The angels turned to Lot. Their voices were calm, but full of power. "Do you have anyone else here? Sons-in-law, sons, daughters, anyone in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here. Now." Lot's eyes widened. "Why?" he asked, breathless. "Because we are going to destroy this place," the angels said. "The outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it." Lot didn't wait. He ran out into the night. He found the men who were pledged to marry his daughters and said, "Hurry! Leave this city. The Lord is about to destroy it." But they only laughed. They thought he was joking. Mad, delusional. They had no idea how close they were to the edge of doom. Lot went back to the house, heart racing. His daughters stood in silence. His wife looked pale, confused. The angels looked at the sky. Morning was coming, and with the light, judgment. "Take your wife and daughters and leave now," the angels said, "or you will be swept away." But Lot hesitated. Maybe he thought of his home, the memories, the people he couldn't save. Maybe he froze in fear. But God, in his mercy, did not wait for Lot's courage. The angels grabbed him by the hand. They grabbed his wife and his 2 daughters too. And they ran. They ran through the sleeping city as smoke began to rise in the distance. They ran past empty streets, past the homes of the blind, past sin and sorrow and judgment not yet fallen but close. Once outside the city, one angel said, "Escape for your life. Don't look back. Don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains or you will be destroyed." Lot gasped. "Please no. Let us go to a small town nearby. It's just a little one. Let us live there." The angel agreed. "Very well. I will not destroy that town. But hurry. I can do nothing until you arrive there." Lot and his family ran. The city behind them still stood, but not for long. A dreadful silence followed them. A storm was coming. One that would not bring rain. Only fire. Only judgment. Only justice. And the time for mercy was almost over. The sky was still dark when Lot and his family reached the small town called Zoar. Their feet were sore. Their hearts were racing. Smoke was already rising in the distance. But they were alive. Safe for now. Behind them, Sodom and Gomorrah still slept. The people of those cities had no idea what was about to happen. They were busy with their usual sins, drinking, laughing, mocking. The streets still echoed with the sounds of pride, cruelty, and desire. They had no fear of God. No sense of what they had done. They had crossed every line, and now, the last moment had come. Then it happened. A rumble shook the skies. The wind changed. And then, fire. From heaven itself, flames poured down like a storm. Not lightning. Not natural fire. This was different. This was holy fire, burning, fierce, unstoppable. It wasn't just heat. It was the very anger of God poured out from the heavens onto a land that had rejected him. Brimstone and fire rained down on Sodom and Gomorrah. The heavens lit up like a furnace. The ground trembled. Buildings exploded in flame. The rivers hissed as fire swallowed them. Trees turned to ash. Stone melted like wax. The screams of the people rose into the sky, but it was too late. No one could run. No one could hide. The time for mercy had ended. God had seen their sins, the pride, the laziness, the cruelty to the poor, the violence, the perversion, the rejection of his ways. They had ignored his voice, mocked his messengers, and refused to repent. Now judgment had fallen. And it was final. Far ahead, Lot and his daughters ran toward Zoar, their eyes forward. But behind them, someone slowed down. Someone stopped. Lot's wife. Her heart was still in Sodom. Her home, her friends, her past life, she couldn't let it go. Though her feet had left the city, her heart had not. And in a single moment of disobedience, she did what the angel warned not to do. She turned back. In one glance, her soul reached back for what God had already judged. And that moment sealed her fate. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She simply froze. Her body turned stiff and cold. She became a pillar of salt. Motionless. Silent. A monument to the danger of loving a sinful world more than the voice of God. Lot didn't see her fall. His daughters didn't know what happened until later. But she was gone. Lost, not in Sodom but just outside of salvation. When the fire was over, nothing was left. Sodom and Gomorrah were gone. Just smoke. Silence. The beautiful land, once called, like the Garden of Eden, was now a scorched, cursed wasteland. The green plains were blackened. The proud cities were erased. Nothing living remained. Even today, that land near the Dead Sea bears the scars. It is a warning carved into the earth, a reminder that God is patient, but not blind. He is merciful, but not weak. He watches. He waits. But when the time comes, he will judge. Abraham stood on a hill early that morning. He looked down toward the valley, where Sodom once stood. All he could see was thick smoke rising like a great furnace. His heart was heavy. He had prayed, pleaded, begged God for mercy. But there were not even 10 righteous people in that whole city. Only Lot, and by God's grace, had escaped. Abraham knew then that the judge of all the earth had done what was right. Lot and his daughters reached Zoar, but they were afraid to stay. Even there, the fear of judgment hung in the air. So they left the town and went to live in the mountains, hiding in a cave, just the 3 of them. Lot had lost everything. His home, his wife, his peace. But he still had his life. And that was because of God's mercy. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah is not just history. It is a warning, a firelit signpost shouting across the ages. God is holy. God is just. God will not ignore sin forever. He sees the secrets of every heart. He watches what happens behind closed doors. He hears the cries of the innocent and the groaning of the broken. He is slow to anger, but when his judgment comes, it comes with fire. But in the middle of that fire, there is still hope. Lot was not perfect, but he feared God. And because of that fear, he was saved. You see, the same God who rained fire on Sodom is also the God who sent his Son to carry the fire for us. On the cross, Jesus stood between heaven's wrath and our sin. He took the punishment so we wouldn't have to. Sodom reminds us that judgment is real. The cross reminds us that mercy is still offered. But time is short. Don't look back. Don't wait. Escape while there's still time. What you just witnessed is more than history. It's a warning wrapped in mercy, a fire that speaks even today. God is patient, but when his judgment comes, it comes without delay. The choice is always the same: escape or perish. If this story stirred your heart, don't leave it here. Like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share it with someone you care about. Because these stories aren't just ancient, they're alive, and they're calling us to decide.